Alright, so today I'm going to demonstrate how to do an encounter library. The encounter library is set up in such a way that you have acts and episodes and encounters already built up for you, so whenever game day comes you can just choose it from the list, load up your players into it, and get moving at that. You'll have the tactical console and all of your notes available. So, starting from scratch, what we're going to do first is we're going to go to our encounters folder. You can have this saved anywhere, it really does not matter. I just have it under my S drive dev encounters to make the path easier. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to new, and we're going to choose a new folder, and we're going to call it the name of our campaign world. So we're going to call this campaign world. Campaign world is going to be set up as acts and episodes. So we're going to start off with the first act, Act 1. If you really have things planned out as far as how things are going to go thematically, you could also do Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, and so on. So we are in Act 1. For Act 1, we're going to have our first episode. Episode the first. And this will be typically one game session for the day. So if you have like a 10-hour day, that would be your episode. So episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. And we're actually up to episode 18 for Act 1, but I'm not going to take the time to create all the folders here. So, episode 1. We are now set up with Campaign World Act 1, episode 1. Now, we're going to go and open up Hero Lab. And we're going to choose Pathfinder. And in Pathfinder, we're going to do non-player character, OK. From here, we're going to open up the encounter builder. And we're going to fight 6 goblins and 2 wolves for our first episode. So we're going to look for goblins. Found goblins. We're going to add 6 of them. And then we're going to look for wolves. And these goblins are not that wealthy, so only 3 of them have wolves. We're going to import them as enemies. Okay, so now we have on our right for our dashboard, we have an unnamed hero and then all of the people we imported. So we're going to save this portfolio, and we're going to go to Dev, Encounters, Campaign World, Act 1, Episode 1, and we're going to call this Goblins in the Woods. And just for cleaning, we're going to delete the unnamed hero that we created for this encounter. And we're going to save one more time, and then we're going to do a new portfolio. Not much different. We OK. We bring up the encounter builder, and the story goes that the goblins were there looking for a zombie. The zombie had treasure on them for some reason or another. So we're going to track down that zombie as part of episode 2. There was part of episode 1, Encounter 2. So we're going to save the portfolio. We're going to call this Our Zombie Friend. And once again, clean up. We need to delete the hero that is unnamed. Yes. And then we're going to save. Now, from here, we want to export what we've created so far. So we're going to go to Tools, and we're going to launch HL Export. HL Export is the utility that lets us bundle stuff together. So HL Export, we don't care about this stuff. We're just going to go to File, Create Encounter Export. Boom. So now we're going to choose the top level folder that we had created for our data. So we're going to go to here, and then Encounters. Campaign World. This is the campaign that we created. If you notice Act 1, Act 2, if you expand that, Episode 1, 2, 3. But we want the top level, we want Campaign World. So now it says specify the export file to generate. This is going to be the HL file that we created. We're going to name this the same thing as the Campaign World and store it right next to that folder. And we'll need to add .hl to the end of it so it doesn't go into the folder. Version 1, version 0, we're going to just leave it at the suggested folder, which is Pathfinder, and we're going to call this World of Campaign. Be sure you want to export these portfolios, and we're set. Okay, now that done, we're going to close out of Hero Lab, and we're going to go and look for the file we made. So, Encounters, Campaign World. Once we double click on this, it will import the file into Hero Lab, and it will give us a dialog that says we did it. Encounter is ready for use. You can find it under the Game Master menu for the appropriate game system by selecting Encounter Library. So we want Pathfinder again. Okay. Now, just like it said, we go to Game Master, we go to Show Encounter Library, and what do you know? Campaign World, Act 1, Episode 1, Goblins in the Woods, Our Zombie Friends. If you notice, it didn't add any of the other stuff for the folders, so there is no Act 2, Act 3, there is no Episode 2 or 3, because those folders were empty. Whenever you add stuff to the folders, it will then add it to the deal. And of course, you can maximize, minimize. So we're going to do Goblins in the Woods, we're going to import. Now if you notice, when we did the import from the Encounter library, our default hero that was made is not there. So, there are perks to having just your encounter as a separate file, but if you want to make better use of the Game Master tools, you will also need to import your players. So go to Portfolio, go to Import Hero from Portfolio, and we want to go to the player folder where we have the players stored, and here is one of them. He's a bard, and it will give you all the details about him. So we're going to hit OK. It's going to ask us to add one. Now if you also notice, not only did it add the hero, but it added his minion as well. So now when we go to the Show Tactical Console, shortcut is Control-T, click on that. It now gives us a tactical console with all of our NPCs, all the enemies are in red, and then all the regular characters, the allies, are going to be in black. So these are just in default order. If you wanted to roll initiative, you would click on New Combat. It assigns all of them initiative values and puts them in that order. If you wanted to change the player for their initiative, say for instance they didn't actually roll a 19, they rolled something lower, so they rolled a 7. So they are actually going to be still at the top of the list, but you can sort them. The other thing that is important is with this tactical console, we can now view details on specific characters. So for instance, if the heavy warhorse did damage to goblin number 3, we would now be able to do damage. For instance, it outright kills them. And they could be helpless, or helpless and shaken. You can also add things like temporary buffs, spells that were cast on them, just to keep track of if their initiative changes, if their hit points change, that sort of thing. Also, a big advantage is to have your tactical notes, where you can say what their next action may be, whether they tend to favor a bow over a dagger, whether they have a breath weapon, whether if they want to use a scroll, anything like that. Usually you don't have to do it for simple characters, but sometimes it comes in handy. And that really is it for this tutorial. If you have any comments or questions, just post them in the comments.